Upon having my recent video in regards to common design and the fact that marsupials tend to share strong genetic similarity with modern placental mammals, some evolution critics wanted to argue with me that it fits perfectly with what we expected by common descent. Quite the contrary though, finding similarities between modern-day marsupial and placental genomes is something that should not exist if common descent was indeed true. The only reasonable scenario to expect such similarities under common descent will be from the earliest ancestral marsupial and placental species that is or is very recent to the ancestor of all marsupials and placental mammals. Regardless, these evolutionists believe that such finding poses no threat to common descent. One critic, Rational Mind, thinks it poses no threat to common descent, as he argues that marsupials are the closest relatives of the placental mammals. I don't understand why you think similarities between marsupials and placental mammals confound evolution. In that evolutionary sense, this is absolutely true. In the paradigm, marsupials do indeed share common ancestry with that of placental mammals. Both the marsupials and placentals are by definition mammals, of course. Now going back to phylogenetic history, marsupials and placental mammals are said to have evolved from a common ancestor of a small mouse-like species that split into two lineages, the marsupials and the placentals, about 100 to 150 million years ago. According to evolutionists, the mouse-like species eventually evolved into unique pathways, one of that being a kangaroo in one lineage after millions of years, and of course its marsupial descendants, and the other into a human. Another one that led to canines, another unique lineage pathway that led to felines, which are cats, and other placental animals. Now for the important question. Is similarity really expected to be seen between a marsupial and placental mammal? It depends which two or more species you are referring to, but the answer in general is yes and no. Yes, in the sense that there should be at least some small degree of similarity present between the two, but no, in the sense that there should be more significant differences present in the similarities. Again, it depends which species you are referring to, so this logic can go both ways. Consider, for instance, the primate phylogeny. Which of these primates share more similarity to humans than the other primates? The answer will be the chimpanzee. The chimpanzees are more closely related to humans since common descent predicts they share most of the similarities together. What is this line of reasoning based on? The answer is recent divergence and homology. By looking at the cladogram, you can see that both humans and chimps are grouped together into what is called a clade. In this very clade, the lines below them converging into a single point represents the lines of their common divergence. In other words, evolution from a common ancestor. Those species that are considered to be mostly closely related are the ones that share most of the similarities with their cousins, chimps being cousins or sisters to humans. On the other hand, gorillas, despite them being next to chimpanzees, share less similarities to that of humans. This is because the distance between humans and gorilla is more greater than the distance between humans and chimpanzees. Therefore, it is the phylogenetic distance that determines how much similarities we should expect under common descent. Using the same reasoning, an orangutan will share less similarities to that of humans than that of a gorilla. A monkey will share less similarity to that of a human than an orangutan. However, shares more similarity to that of gibbons. See the pattern? The more distant, the more differences there are present. The less distant, the more similarities there are present. This is the universal rule of common descent. Now try to go even back further in the phylogenetic tree to the point when placental mice evolved. You will notice that the distance between mice and primates are somewhat quite distant to each other. Therefore, we will expect to see some differences than that of the primates. By comparing the genome to a mouse and a human, it turns out that this is actually true, consisting about 75% to 80% genetic similarity. This is because their phylogenetic distance is far greater than that of primates compared to humans. Now, apply the same reasoning and imagine how distant a kangaroo, which is a modern marsupial, is from a human. The phylogenetic distance between a kangaroo to a human is significantly huge, as kangaroos fall into the branch where all marsupial mammals are grouped while humans fall into the branch of ancient to modern day placental mammals. Those under common descent will expect significant distances and differences as well, much more different than that of mouse and cows. Yet, despite all odds, kangaroos manage to share strong genetic similarity to that of modern placental mammals, such as that of humans. As illustrated in the paper and my recent video, like genomes of placental mammals, both marsupial genomes have at least 18,000 protein coding genes, nearly all of which have orthologs in the human genome. It is illustrated that nearly all of the 18,000 genes present in the marsupial genomes were matched to that of human DNA. Thus, the genetic similarity between marsupial genome with human is very quite high, as there are many large portions of genes being strongly conserved. Nevertheless, the conservation between marsupial and human genome does indeed sound impressive. Indeed, as it has even surprised the scientists, since it was unexpected discovery since they so strongly believe in common descent as they commented. There are a few differences. We have a few more of this, a few lists of that, but they are the same genes and a lot of them are in the same order, said Jenny Graves, director of the Center of Excellence for Kangaroo Genomics. We thought they would be completely scrambled, but they're not, which was surprising to us. There is great chunks of the human genome which is sitting right there in the kangaroo genome, she added. Surprising indeed, as they just observed a similarity that should not have existed if common descent was true, considering how significantly distant modern placental mammals are from that of modern marsupials, given that they are from a different evolutionary branch. Yet somehow, despite such huge distances, these two were able to converge very strongly as if they both shared a recent divergence like that of humans and chimpanzees. The trend is quite clear. There is a clear inconsistency going on when talking about similarities, homologies, that is definitely not caused by common descent. The fact modern kangaroos share strong genetic similarity with that of humans is a clear defiance to what would be predicted by common descent. So, do similarities between a kangaroo and human put common descent into question? With that much evolutionary distance at time, 100 to 150 million years ago, the kangaroo and human genomes should have evolved substantial differences. Of course, a mammal will be similar to humans because they are placental mammals just like humans, cows, and so on. However, kangaroos are not placental mammals, and therefore it will be more reasonable to suggest that pigs are more closely related to placental mammals than marsupials like that of a kangaroo. Yet most of the chromosomes in the marsupials share strong synthetic blocks with that of placental mammals. On the other side, the marsupial chromosomes are homologous to that of birds and reptiles. These homologous regions do not share any homology with that of the placental mammals. Given that marsupials and placental undergo unique pathways, we will expect differences to accumulate significantly in relation to time and phylogenetic distance, as I stated before. So the answer will be plain yes. It does put common descent into question. But putting that aside, Jennifer Grace left a personal commentary from the second cited paper from my video. She commented, "When I started mapping kangaroo genes at its behest, other scientists told me I was wasting my time. Some argued that marsupials would be so different from humans and mouse that comparison would be meaningless, while others warned that the exercise was pointless as they will prove to be exactly the same as our familiar models." So apparently there were scientists trying to discourage her from comparing the genome between marsupials and placental mammals. They, based on her commentary, thought doing so would be absolutely pointless since they believe they will be so widely different. That says a lot really, given the professional judgment in the field. Another dilemma for common descent. Interestingly though, despite the fact that there are strong similarities and synergistic relationships present between modern marsupials and placentals, there are also differences present that do not fall in alignment with the placental mammals, nor birds, nor reptiles. However, despite the differences and lack of homology, it was discovered that a large portion of marsupial-specific genes were found to be very strongly. However, despite the differences and lack of homology, it was discovered that a large portion of marsupial-specific genes were essentially nothing more but gene duplications, pseudogenes, and autosomes. However, the rest of the marsupial genome were found to be very strongly conserved between that of modern placental mammals, birds, and reptiles such as turtles. Also, it was discovered too that most of the chromosomes in the karyotypes of marsupials and placental mammals were highly vulnerable to inversions, as most of the chromosome regions in the marsupial genome or karyotype were found to be highly rearranged, sharing syntenic relationships. Once again, it seems more likely that common design is at play here, given that it is possible that the designer used the same blueprint but modified for each specific group to create what is called adaptive mask, which is basically different adaptation functionality arising from a common architect. This is especially true among homologous structures, as these structures, despite their common anatomical components, perform different functions and adaptations. This is exactly what would be expected from a common designer, as we would expect different functions arising from a common architect. Thanks for watching.